you listening to? Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn.
Welcome to another episode of Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn. We've got another heavy-hitting episode tonight where we have Representative Adam Robertson, who is going to talk about getting rid of those school fees. I mean, the crazy school fees that can be hundreds, even in recent years, even up to thousands for parents. He's also got legislation dealing with the referendum and ballot initiative process, and maybe creating different playing fields for the big money that can come in to those processes versus sort of the grassroots and, kind of the everyday citizen that wants to affect a ballot initiative or a referendum. And then we're going to be joined by Utah Parents United with Corrine Jacobson, right? Johnson, because there is an army out there and it is a force absolutely to be reckoned with. So thanks for joining us tonight. And let's bring on Representative Adam Robertson, who is District 63, Utah County, close to BYU, but with redistricting, just forget the number because it's going to change.
That's right. With just redistricting, all those numbers that none of us can remember anyway, all get reshuffled.
You have to. But if you run for re-election, which I assume you are, then you've got to change your T-shirts and your signs and your websites, and what a pain. But anyway.
Well, I think I was thought ahead a little bit about this. So my signs actually don't need changed.
Oh,
I didn't put a district number on there.
Which is why he's one of the smartest guys up on the hill, and absolutely one of our rock solid conservatives in the body. So we're not surprised you're running some of the legislation that you're doing. But so tell us about it. 144.
It's 185.
185
referendum and 211 school fees.
Sure. Let's start out with the referendums and initiatives. This is really interesting. I've done some work looking at what happens in the state of Utah and what big money is behind some of the initiatives we've seen. I remember early on in my political career, I was really frustrated one night because there was somebody paying a lot of money to call every person in my district, particularly the elderly, and they were running trucks around downtown Salt Lake with big, huge signs in the back advertising what they were pushing for. And somebody was paying for this, and I had to find out who. So one night, sitting in the Capitol, I decided I was going to figure it out. And I stayed up till about 2 a.m. digging and digging and digging. And what I found was really interesting. What I found at the end of the day, by digging through a bunch of IRS forms that were required by unions, as I found which union out of California was funding the initiatives happening in Utah and Idaho and Maine and all across the country.
Wow.
And it was a union.
Do you not want to disclose that issue? I mean, 2018 was a big year for ballot initiatives. Yep. There were millions and millions of dollars that poured into this state around Medicaid expansion. There was some on redistricting efforts itself. Yep. And what else did we see? That medical marijuana was the big. That was the same year. So there was a slew of initiatives. It was the one that kept you up that year?
This was healthcare. So this is around Medicaid expansion. Yeah. So there was a motive. So you have a massive union out of California with tens of thousands of union workers, each paying on the order of $1,000 per year of fees. So say 90,000 employee people in the union, each paying about $900K. Suddenly you've got a lot of money, many, many millions every year. Now, if you could expand that union into some other states, you've got a financial motive. And if you get a conservative state like Utah, that's a right to work state, to crumble to Medicaid expansion, you get a couple others, you have a huge payback. Your payback, if you can get another state to unionize, is almost instantaneous. You can spend millions of dollars and you can have a payback in under 6 months. So they have a motive.
Yeah.
I have all the data on that. If anybody ever wants it, I have it all mapped out, where the money flowed through, which organizations it went to, who got what that year. It's super interesting.
How
But
many
that
how many of
drove
those were conservative groups and how many were liberal groups? And I'm serious. I mean, the serious question.
Yeah, I think we all know the answer. There, that money was coming from one union. It was going to an agency that was stood up right around the same time, 2017, 2016, just before, as a mechanism for funneling the money.
Yep.
That organization had to register in each of the states where they were pushing this bill. That's the entities that stood up and got the initiatives on the ballot. That's the group who paid for all the signature gatherers. That's the group who put ads in the state. It's all tied in.
Wow.
So-
and
Yeah, go.
well, and let me say too. So I was working for Speaker Hughes in 2015, and it was an absolutely massive effort to push back against a Senate that supported Medicaid expansion and a governor who supported Medicaid expansion. And we won because in the end, when you're dealing with a lawmaking body, we were able to make the case very persuasively that in the end it was an unsustainable endeavor for the state, and that before long we have a state that is, has a younger population than many and more children than many, and so funding schools is always an issue here. We made the case as well, and it was obvious that before long, healthcare spending in state funds
Is
would
gonna
completely swallow
swallow.
public ed. And wasn't this, you would know this, Representative Robertson, wasn't this year the first year, I think I heard this a month or so ago, or last year, the first year that public education spending was lower in the budget than healthcare spending in state dollars.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We are spending more on healthcare spending than education, which I think is a travesty.
Right.
Which we knew was coming, and anybody who can do
Yes.
simple math can see that. So let's back up just a minute and please make the distinction between a ballot initiative and a referendum, because they are very, very different things.
Okay, that's a great question. And you're going to have to correct me if I get this wrong.
I
okay?
will. That's what I do. Just kidding.
So, initiative. So, in theory, the people have equal power to the legislature. The people could go and gather signatures and get something put on the ballot they want to become law. We call that an initiative. And we don't want any Joe just to be able to go do it with one signature. So you got to get a bunch of people. So we set thresholds in the state for how many signatures you have to gather to have something be put on the ballot for a vote of the people. So that's an initiative. A referendum is, hey, the lawmakers passed some law that we, the people, don't like. And similarly, you have to get a bunch of people who don't like it to go and say, hey, government, don't do that. We're going to take that law you just passed off the books. We'd call that a referendum.
Okay, I think that's a pretty good explanation, and I have very different feelings about the two, and I feel like in our representative compound constitutional republic that we have in our country, in our state, that the people elect a legislative body to affect legislation. So while there is this, there is this ability for the people to also do this, really, they have designated the legislature, you and 104 of your friends, to do this. And so I think that threshold should be a pretty high thing for the public to basically override the constitutional body that was positioned to do that. But the referendum is, okay, now you guys messed up. And I think while the threshold should be high, I feel stronger that the people should have a voice if you really messed up, and they can meet that threshold. And it is a high bar. But I think there is a distinction between the two. And
But does the law recognize a distinction
Yes.
on the signature gathering front?
so we had legislation last year by Representative Tusher that did make some changes on the initiative side. So it made it, I think, just a little bit harder. And I think because it was trying to address some of the things that this bill also addresses, but the referendum side, making sure it's not impossible for the people to overturn something the legislature does that is so highly unpopular. And we have a very good example of that from 2019 tax reform.
That's why you like it.
And the 2020 that's
Yeah.
that the referendum tried to overturn
Right.
that. So, but it is a high bar. I mean, it was a high bar, and a grassroots army that went out and said,
But they did it. They were able
did
to
it.
do it. And
Yes.
so in this bill, your bill, Representative Robertson, tell us what the differences are in your bill when it comes to paid signature gatherers who are truly backed by big money. That is not an inexpensive endeavor versus the citizens, the people want this change, whether it be an initiative or a referendum. They want this change, and they go out and volunteer to gather these signatures. Talk to us about how you think those two should be dealt with differently.
Yeah, and maybe a little background here is helpful. This was spurred by this idea was spurred by some things that happened in Provo, where the Provo City Council had allowed a microbrewery to come into town. And this is Provo. This is conservative central. And a number of people, including a former city council woman, said, hey, this isn't okay. We want to do a referendum. We want to pull this back. And so she went to go be a grassroots effort and gather the signatures. And what she found, it's really hard. It should be hard. The bar should not be low.
Right.
But it was extremely hard. So in Utah statute right now, it's 287501 under initiatives, and then 601 for referenda. A city the size of Provo, over 100,000 people, she has to collect 7.5% of all the active voters. And she has to get them proportionally from all the different areas in the city. So she gathered some people together from different parts of the city, and they began to do their work. And they were getting pretty close. But you also have a timeline. You have to do this in a certain time frame, and a whole bunch of detailed laws you have to follow. So they were working that. What they found is they got close and they couldn't get there fast enough. So they did something a little interesting. They said, hey, to get us that last little bit, we're going to have to hire some paid signature gatherers. Now, lots of people don't understand paid signature gatherers. I didn't understand it. But if you have money, I am convinced you can pay to have anything you want put on a ballot. Like, let's vote for the earth is flat. You can have that on the ballot. I kid you not, if you have enough money.
Yeah.
Because when you go, what happens is you pay these usually students to go to the doors, and they get paid by the number of valid signatures they gather. Now, so they go and say, hey, are you registered to vote? Yes, no. Okay, if they are, then they say, hey, I have this cool little thing about the earth, and talking about how the earth, is beautiful and blue and with water on it and land, and please sign this. They don't have to tell what the actual bill does. And people go, oh yeah, the earth has water and land and it's beautiful, and they see a picture of it. Yes, okay, I'll sign that. Just please go away so I can get back to my Saturday. They sign it. I've seen this happen a lot of times. So then that person goes, great. If this is a valid signature, which then gets validated by the county clerk saying, yes, this person's registered to vote. Yep, that's their signature. Then that person gets paid for that signature, and it could be $5 or $6. So the faster you can go and get these signatures validated, you can make a lot of money. You can be making 20, 30, $40 an hour if you're good.
Yeah.
And so you have a huge motivation to just collect signatures. And so now if you have money, you can say the earth is flat and get that put to a vote by the people in the law, or you can do the same thing for referendum initiative, either one. So back to the Provo story. They went and got some paid signature gatherers. Long story short, they still couldn't get there. The referendum process shouldn't have such a high bar that people can't get there. So the thought was, what if we make it so that if you have a true grassroots effort, that you have a dual path for the initiative or for the referendum? If it's truly grassroots, lower the bar. If they're using big money, paid signature gatherers, keep it really high. And I think that's really interesting. Now where it gets messy is free speech. Paying money is considered a First Amendment right of an expression of free speech expression. So can you limit one form, have different rules for different forms of First Amendment expression? So that's where it got really weird. So I like the concept, but it has some constitutional issues that are questionable. We don't know how that would work. It probably ended up in court, probably at fairly high levels, probably have to go to the Supreme Court potentially to get resolved, because it is a national First Amendment constitutional issue. So that's where that's at. So I've subbed the bill, and I have a different approach I'm taking right now.
Okay, so I have we just have a couple more minutes with you. But couple quick questions. This doesn't do anything about those unions making bazillions of phone calls. And in the referendum that we just saw, we saw a big player come into the market or into that effort that didn't put any money on the table, but they put their stores on the table, and they opened their stores to facilitate this. And so, I always hated as a mom, and like my kids wanted to run for student body officer or whatever, and they're like, you can only spend $20 on the race. And I'm like, okay, that's crazy, because the guy who's running, whose father is a printer, is going to have a whole lot of assets that are going to contribute to that race, while we're, baking cookies from scratch or whatever it is. That paid signature gathering is not the only way money can come in and influence these initiatives, referendum. We saw them in Salt Lake County. I'm grateful for the Utah County example, but in Salt Lake County, same time-ish, we had Olympia Hills. We had Holiday, and residents of those areas just grabbed their pitchforks and their ballot, their petition booklets, but they were very, very grassrootsy. But then when we saw the tax referendum, we had a different asset. So it doesn't really address that, and I think people will just shift their money, right? It won't be on signature gathering, it'll be on paid callers.
Well,
yeah, that's a good point. How do you stop the big money, which is the big money influence is what I'm trying to, particularly out of state money, most especially, I want to avoid. How do you do that? It's not trivial.
So what about the transparency, though? Because the fact that you had to dig and see, when political activity like electioneering, if you get a text message or you get emails or you get mailers, it has to disclose, who's funding it. Why not have it, or is there a transparency piece in your legislation, or could you add that?
That's a tricky one. So let me tell you back to this one that happened with the Medicare. So in brief, Service Employees Local 2005 is United Healthcare Workers West. It's out of California. The Service Employees is the largest AFL-CIO affiliate in the entire United States. This group had 93,000 employees, $888 of annual dues. And over 3 years, from 2015 to 2017, they put $12 million in an entity called the Fairness Project.
Because it's fair, and they want fairness, and that's a good thing.
Correct. Now, I had to go and dig that out of their Department of Labor L2 forms, which is required a union filing. These are huge documents, 90 plus pages, PDFs that I had to search through and find it, and search for the Fairness Project. The Fairness Project then sent money to Utah Decides Healthcare. 2018, they sent $3.5 million. The same year, they sent $430K to Idaho, $1.7 million to Nebraska, Montana $470K, Maine $1.0 million. So they're sending millions of dollars to influence Medicaid expansion in multiple states.
Yeah.
So no one tracked that down. The pain of tracking that down was a lot. I'm actually kind of upset that some enterprising news reporters didn't find this. That I had to find it.
Yeah, they like expansion, so that's why that didn't happen. But go on.
So I think I like the idea of being able to trace the money, follow the money, and follow money reveals a lot of stuff. And this it just took a lot of sleuthing to find. And unfortunately, we don't have reporters who are actively pursuing this type of sleuthing.
Yeah.
So why not have it in legislation if you are funding or you are putting any measurable financial assets into a ballot initiative or referendum, that has to be disclosed like it is for elections.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what's currently in there. It is in there. So Utah Decides Healthcare had to disclose their source of funding, and that's in that I found that in the Utah records with the elections office. So it was in the records that came from the Fairness Project. But the Fairness Project didn't have to say where they got their money.
Yeah.
And that's where I had to go into the Department of Labor L2 forms and find year after year of filings, a couple million every year to figure that out. So it's layers of the onion. So law requires the first layer is revealed today, but it's the second and third layers that need to be revealed to get back down to the source.
Wow. So yeah, that I don't know how that's addressed at the state level, right? Especially when it's going state by state. But that's probably something worth thinking about. So
And then also when you get to that point, when you have PACs and things like that, then there's donor privacy there as well.
Yeah.
So you probably hit a firewall there.
But something like this, right? It's coming from an actual union. So I think you wouldn't even have to know who the individual, donors are to the union. You just need to know that it's, a California AFL-CIO affiliate, and that would be helpful information as people are weighing what really would be best for them. Right? So I am going to have to say we had a really super engaging conversation on this, and I'm wondering if we can get you on another time to talk about school fees because I want to get to the school fees as well.
All right, what's
Absolutely.
the timeline? Is it are we good on time to come back and talk about fees? As far as where your bill is?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's headed to the House. Got through a committee this morning, and it's headed to the full House early next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's, we will have a discussion tomorrow, and maybe we just look at having you on next week to discuss the school fees bill.
Yeah, it sounds great. Thanks for having
Okay,
me.
thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Representative.
Representative.
Next, we have Corrine Johnson with Utah Parents United. This is just absolutely a force to be reckoned with. Kind of popped on the scene when just an organic movement, I guess, of parents that were not okay with what they were learning in our about education in our schools, some COVID responses, and so this is an army of it's the mom army
That is really being impactful at the legislature in a way that I don't think I've seen so quickly any other grassroots groups be.
Right, and part of that is because they are serious about being effective.
Yeah.
And not just making noise, but being effective and even training, their loosely members, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But let's hear from Corrine. So nothing's happening with Education on the Hill this year. So you're just kind of going up there and walking around, doing nothing.
Getting to know people.
Oh yeah, we're just humming along, singing a song, right? It has been absolutely amazing to be a part of this legislative session where I really think that education is the number one issue up there on the Hill right now. And we are thrilled that we can be part of the Mom Army. I love that name. I'm absolutely honored to be part of this movement of moms and dads. We have some great dads too. And in impact legislation, like you said, I think what we've seen over the last couple of years is we've worked with our school districts for 2 years. And this organic movement that you talked about, when they couldn't get where they needed to feel they could get that, response or help, they turned to their legislators. And the legislators are answering, and they are stepping in and doing things to help parents. And it's just awesome.
So there's a bill, the Hope Scholarship Bill. We spoke the other day with Representative Candace Perucci, who's running that. I know that you and your organization are working on that. Tell us about kind of what this bill does, what this scholarship is, and why we're talking now about education choice as opposed to school choice like we were 15 years ago with vouchers.
Absolutely. Well, I think the Hope Scholarship really, amplifies what it is that parents have been looking for over the last couple of years in education is the opportunity to kind of make decisions for their children that fits their children's own education needs. And the thing that's different about this than like 15 years ago when it was a voucher and then the voucher went directly to the school, this money goes to the families. It goes to the parents and directly to the children so they can make those choices. Our organization started in the middle of COVID, like you said, Kim, and we really learned during that time when our kids got sent home and they're sitting at our kitchen tables and we're trying to figure out how to teach them math, and through all that frustration and all that online learning, the one thing we realized is we got to see how our kids learn. And I have 5 kids in the Davis School District, and I have everywhere from a first grader to a senior in high school. So I have the whole range that I'm dealing with. And I didn't realize how differently all of my kids learned, and that what was happening in the public education system was not working for a lot of my kids. And so actually, since COVID, we've done a lot of different things in our house. We have some kids doing, full-time school, some part-time, some online, some home. And we are so excited about the opportunity to do more, to be able to have the ability to use this education savings account, which are our tax dollars, to create even more options for my kids so they can thrive and they can do even better in education outside of the public system. And I think I'm not alone. I am a very typical parent, and I'm not alone in this need to have custom education. And one size fits all, it just doesn't cut it. And we don't live in a world like that anymore, do we? Right? Like,
Right.
Everything is custom. Everything is on demand. And our kids deserve that.
They do. And, Utah's actually long been really good on school choice, right? For a long time, you've been able to exercise a special permit and go to another school in the district or go to another district.
Unless it's to play sports, but go on.
To play sports.
For that first year. Yeah, there's some issues there, but go on.
Right. We have a robust charter school sector as well. And so, it really is the move from, it's not just the school choice, but even the modality of education, the like you said, the way your children learn better may not be even in that traditional setting. So to be able to move the education choice to a whole different mode, it's exciting. It's exciting.
Well, and we're seeing some of this happen right now in real time, right? Within the constraints of the public system, right? So you have Salt Lake School District behaved very differently from a lot of other school districts. We talked about this with Representative Perucci the other day. And so you're seeing parents walking their children and their dollars to other districts that are more responsive to them and what they think is important to their children. Why should it be limited only to these existing brick and mortars that are run by and this, I don't mean this as a pejorative, but the bureaucrats who run our education system, right? Like our world is not that. I can pick up my phone and I have so many options for absolutely everything in my life. Why not with education as well?
That's right. Right.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And, that is one of the challenges we find is that, and this is what we learned with COVID, is that the school districts and the public education system, they do get to make those decisions for our kids, and they don't necessarily involve parents very well. Hopefully they'll learn and they'll get better, but it's also why we're running some legislation to help with that right now, which we can talk about if you'd like. But yes. I ran into this issue with my charter school. I took my kids out of one school, the elementary school, because they weren't offering 4 days a week school during COVID, and I moved them to a charter school that was offering 4 days a week, right? So I moved them within the public education system. And at the beginning of this school year, my charter school, out of the blue, like a week before school, announced to all of us that they changed their entire learning model. There was no public meeting. There was no notice. And suddenly this school I was thrilled because their teachers get to teach. It's a charter, right? They get to design curriculum, design programs that meet kids' needs, went to an all online pre-scripted curriculum. And it's the Summit curriculum, which is also funded and designed by Mark Zuckerberg. So there's some ideologies behind that also a lot of parents were not crazy about, but no notice, no warning. And then my kids are trapped. We already did one, then we have the other. And so where do we go now? And after about 6 weeks of this program and watching one of my children just absolutely flounder, going from a happy, excited child to one with high anxiety, struggling in school, I pulled her out. And we're doing like an online thing. We're trying that. And my other daughter's still there and I'm trying to figure out what to do for her. And so it's been really exciting as we're working with school choice. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, next year, if we get school choice, I'm like, I can make you a school. Like we can create something for you. And so when I'm up at the Hill and we're working really hard and I come home at the end of the day and she's like, Mom, are you working on my school? And it warms my heart and it makes me so happy to think that this work that we're doing will provide this for children all across the state. And parents can have that sense of relief to know that they can do something for their child that the public education system isn't providing, whether it's this class is too big, my kid's getting lost, my kid's struggling with the culture in the school, or, my kid just doesn't learn well on computers and they need a different learning model. And all of those things really can happen if this school choice or education choice Hope Scholarship is passed. I think it gives families so much hope for their kids and hope for the future.
So can I just say, as you were talking, I was thinking, so what you're telling us is that you are not binary. You are non-binary. You do not want public education or homeschool totally on your own.
Yeah.
You want more options. These are not just this binary system is not working for you, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. I'm totally non-binary, you guys. But that's what's great.
You heard it here.
I could homeschool with this option, right? So I could just sit at my kitchen table and this scholarship will allow me to get school supplies for my kids, or I can find a micro school that's already in play. I can create a co-op. I can put my children in a private school that, would work for them. And so, and actually I'll probably do a little bit of all of this because every child needs something different.
Yes.
But it's amazing to think what this scholarship can do. It's not limited. And I think that's the difference between a voucher and education choice.
And let me give
amazing.
So let me give some props to your organization. Where can people find you?
Yes.
Utah Parents United.
So if you want to, so this is just one of our priority bills, Kim.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring up
a lot of bills.
Others.
There's some other things that we've talked about earlier in this podcast that you may have had a little bit of influence on, like you can't lock out, parents and from public school board meetings and things like that. And holy moly, there's some things that we're going to be covering on that as well.
Yeah, we're really excited about the vote on HB 135 this morning. Unanimous vote from the House Representatives. Cannot thank them enough for recognizing just the basic First Amendment right we have to give public comment and open public meetings. When parents learn that it is not already guaranteed that there will be public comment, that is up to the discretion of the public body, they're like, what? You mean they could tell me I can't speak? We're like, yeah. They're like, that doesn't make any sense. They're like, isn't it the whole point that it's public comment? And so this bill is fantastic because it actually does the very thing we all think we already have. And it puts that there that we have the reasonable verbal public comment in every meeting. But if you go to utahparentsunited.org, that's our website. I'll say it again, utahparentsunited.org. Right on the homepage is our bill tracker. So if you click on that, you'll see each of these bills that we are working on. There's a little write-up on each bill so you can understand, in not legalese language, what is in the bill. And then we'll have the committee members. You can write the committee members, and then we'll kind of give a little video. We love to do these videos. The legislators have been so awesome letting us come up and hear directly from them why this bill matters to parents. And that is really what this is about. So go to the bill tracker and find it, and then share that link with your friends and your neighbors and anyone who's interested. All parents should be able to know what's going on in legislation and have a voice. And so that's what we hope will happen.
Nice. Well, so I also wanted to kind of prop up education education opportunity for all as well. That's another kind of companion organization out there that is also feeding information. And so when I think of what some of these fairly new groups are doing, it's just amazing, because it's not just the education choice bills. It is this other world of the public meeting access and things like that. And so what about the mom terrorists that keep going to school board meetings
and wanting to speak during designated public comment periods?
Right. Are the mom terrorists affected by this legislation?
Oh goodness, that just makes me laugh. I've been locked out of a public meeting, you guys. This happy face here.
Well, you're dangerous. I mean, it's clearly we can just profile you. Looking at you,
right. It's just
you are a
profiling.
scary person.
I know. We in Davis School District, we have actually filed almost a dozen Open Meetings Act violations on our school district the last year.
Nice.
And it's everything from locking doors to public meetings to not posting the minutes of meetings they're like a year behind. So it is time for parents. Yes, I'm serious. It is time for parents to start going to school board meetings, looking at agendas, learning how this process works, and holding our school districts accountable.
Okay, sounds like some need to run for school board. I mean, it sounds like a lot of.
So we'll help with that too, Kim. We have a whole thing set up for parents to run for school board. So if you go to utahparentsunited.org and you go down to school board elections 2022, you can find out what district you're in, what seats are open, and who you can choose, what area. I don't want to say who you're going to run against, because maybe you have a great school board rep. You might. Mm-hmm. There are some out there that are fantastic, and we don't want to discount those people who are doing great, but more parent representation is important.
Yes.
We need parent voices. In our school board, only one member has children on our school board. Of, I think it's 7 representatives, only one has children.
What?
So this is, yes.
You know,
yes.
I think the hardest part of this.
This is very common.
Honestly, the hardest part of this, and this is your local city council, it's your county commission, which please step up some people to run for certain seats in Salt Lake County and other counties. I want people to understand that it's doable with your life. And you don't. This is America. You don't have to be a lawyer or whatever. This is government, of the people, by the people, for the people. And I just wish more people would understand they can serve in public office, and it's so doable. And I mean, if I could do anything to help people understand what you can, you really can do this. It's, a few hours a week or whatever. And then having groups like UPU
having groups
help them
who are saying,
on the
we'll
campaign
help
side.
you navigate this.
Right.
Because I think that's what
Absolutely.
scares off a lot of people, right? Yeah. I don't know what to do or how to even start.
Or I don't know if I know enough, or I don't know if I can speak well, or, none of those things. I mean, the best reps are, they're just people, regular people. And so
they're not the people who want it.
Yeah. Well, what do people need to be watching? You said we can go to your social media and your websites to track, to follow those tracking of the legislation, and then people know when to call their rep and when to call their senator and weigh in. And so amazing work that you guys are doing. You all are.
Thank you. Following us on Facebook is great because you get fast updates. Instagram as well. But if you really want to track these bills, you want to text bills 2022. That's bills
I'm doing that right now.
2022.
Bills
Yeah.
2022. Okay.
And text it to 5. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. 53445.
5345.
And
445.
exactly. So
445. 53445.
53445. So for like House Bill 35, House Bill 135, which passed today, yesterday we sent you a text that said,
Parents.
this is the bill. It will be there tomorrow on the House. Text your representative now. And then we give you the link so you can read all about the bill and send that out to your representative. So we'll be doing that. I think the next one coming up for us that will be voted on the Senate floor is Senate Bill 114. And Senate Bill 114 is another piece of legislation for parents that brings them into the beginning of the process in transparency and curriculum across your district. So, I have some stories I could tell for days on this topic of parents who have been denied access to view district-wide curriculum that is being taught in their children's classrooms. And they go to ask, and the school district says, "Oh, no, you can't see that." Really? So we want parents at the
Unbelievable.
beginning of the process.
Well, but
really
don't many of the contracts say that they can't, right? That parents can't. I know some districts on some things, they have allowed parents to come in and view it on the school computer, but it's within these contracts, correct, Corrine?
Absolutely. They're copyrighted, or the school district created them in-house and created their own copyrights for the curriculum.
Oh.
But we have parents who are spending hours, 30, 40 hours personally going into their school districts with their little children in hand,
Wow.
sitting in rooms with screens and watching this curriculum and seeing this curriculum with babysitters, the school district employees sitting with them, monitoring them. This is how parents are gaining access to curriculum in the state of Utah. And this is what these stories are getting to our legislators. It's how we work with parents. You start with your teacher, then your principal, then you go to the district, then you work with your school board representative. And if you can't get this resolved, go to your legislator. Let them know what's going on. And that's why these bills are here. These bills are coming from the parents who are experiencing these things and then going and asking for help. And that's what's so fantastic, is it truly is legislation for the people, by the people. It is so exciting to see it. And so we hope all the legislators will recognize that is what is going on here. And they're lobbyists. We're not lobbyists. We're not a special interest group. We're not paid. We're all just volunteers. And we just want to see change in our school districts for our kids. And so it is very, very rewarding to do this work with parents, because we can't do it without them.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see. It is so exciting to see. As I walk around the Capitol, I feel like there is something different is going on. Mm-hmm. It isn't just all lobbyists up there. Right. It's nice to see more members of the public getting to know the process, being involved in the process, and feeling comfortable with it, because that is what we need. Otherwise, legislation is legislation mostly written by and for lobbyists and special interest groups. And that is truly, there's a place for that. Yeah. Lobbyists represent companies that have interests in various things. But I think too many of us have allowed the process to just be what it is and go about our lives until things got to a point where we realized we needed to be a part of that process. And legislation of and by the people needs to be a part of that process.
Well, you guys
Absolutely.
You're doing an amazing job. So thanks for fighting for all of us and for the future and for our children, for our families.
Yes, thanks,
thank
Corrine.
you so much. Thank you. And thank you for everything that you are doing. We are so grateful to be able to come and talk about our organization and get more parents involved in this massive mom and dad army right here in Utah. We are 25,000 strong and growing every single day. And so we just want to invite everyone to come join us.
That's so
incredible.
great to hear.
Incredible.
Yes.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So thank you for joining us for another exciting episode. I mean, so much going on right now. And so thank you again for being with us. Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn. Find us where you find your favorite podcasts, as social media. And please, if you like what you're hearing, seeing, please like, please share, please follow us. That helps us get to more people. So,
and thank you, Fosmu.
Fosmu. Our
Yes.
great producer,
Yeah.
Fosmu.
And you're welcome. And just a little apology to Corrine and Utah Parents United, because we actually recorded an interview with her a couple of days ago, but the audio didn't work out. So what you just saw was us doing it again. Or
Yes.
Heard. Yeah, we did it again. It was just as good, if not better, the second time around. So,
Thank
Yes.
you. And thank Corrine for, we would like to thank Corrine for coming
Oh,
back
yes,
and doing that,
definitely.
because she's already volunteering all of her time, right? Up at the Capitol and working on these issues. And she was more than happy to join us again. So, Fosmu, thank you for your work, and thanks for helping us out and keeping everything in line for us. Were you weird on a Zoom call, Kim?
No, I just, so a couple of, so I
What were you wearing?
my phone has just been blowing up for.